might as well sit here then, yeah. Hi, my name's Coyote, entrepreneur. Most of you probably see me on The Apprentice.
And I definitely saw you on The Apprentice. Big up yourself on The Apprentice, by the way.
Thank you.
We'll get to that. That's big up. Round of applause just for everyone. So, did you find that you felt you were giving a lot of yourself, like through television and maybe some of the aftermath, because you're also a motivational speaker, right?
I'll say what you saw on The Apprentice is me in real life. I mean, I wasn't acting, I was just being myself, so that's how I am on an everyday basis. Hopefully that's what you pick up from me today as well.
But in that environment, you can imagine, like, from week to week, you've got tasks, you're in this like hectic kind of just format. How did you find time within that to kind of look after yourself, and what did you do?
I think within the process of The Apprentice, it's quite difficult. I mean, it's nothing like your ordinary life. You're living with your competitors essentially 24/7. So essentially there's no off switch. So for me, looking after my self-care, one thing I love to do, for example, I like to have my own typical morning routine of maybe reading. I'm studying German, and you might have saw my German on there as well.
Please drop us a few lines, just so we know.
I might say like, sprechen Sie Deutsch?
That's one line, another
There's
one.
one line, ich habe Coyote.
Hey,
No, but the reason why it's difficult on the show is that you're living under a regimented rules. You don't have the same freedom. So things that you like to do, for example, to step out and look after yourself, you can't necessarily do that in the show because there's rules around it.
Yeah, and there's rules around it. And in terms of you leaving, have you been practicing still with reading and taking some time out to like look after yourself?
That's something I've been doing now for years. Like my morning routine, I'm very like OCD with it. Like, you know, as soon as I wake up, it would either be some sort of exercise in the shower, and then I do my journal. I practice my German and I read for 20 minutes, and that's something I do morning and night. But then on the show, you don't have that freedom. You know, as soon as the phone rings, you're downstairs into the car. So
yeah, no, I can imagine, man. Mental, but well done.
Can I add something on the social media aspect?
Yeah, because I was actually going to ask you, like, when you came off The Apprentice, you must have seen some loving comments and people saying, "Oh, Coyote, you're the man." But definitely, there must have been one or two individuals who hit you up and was like, "Look, this isn't something I appreciate." Did that happen to you? How did you kind of shield yourself and link that back to self-care?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I probably get maybe 99% comments of love. Where it's that one comment I hate, that's the one that gets to you, you know, it's weird. Like, you can literally have 99 good comments, but the one guy, like, there's one, I had to block him. He was talking about my mom. I was like, yo, if it's that deep, just come back to me. If it's that deep, just if it's that deep, we'll meet me. If it's that deep, if not, then let's leave it. But one thing that amazes me with social media is that the reason why it's so addictive, because what people need to understand is that you're friends with your friends, meaning like you're more than likely to share the same interests. So therefore, if they're sharing something with you, you're automatically going to like it as well. But the amazing thing, I love what Vanessa said about having a social media detox, because I've had several throughout my life. Obviously, right, Apprentice, you don't have your phone. But even before that, you know, I've gone camping up in the Lake District before. You're just in the woods, so once your phone dies, that's it, nowhere to charge it. But the amazing thing is that after you come for detox, do you realize you haven't missed anything? You haven't missed anything. Like when I came off The Apprentice, I was like, what? It's just the same old, do you get what I mean? So don't feel like you're missing out on anything. When I was at university, this is where it hit me hard. When I was at uni at the time, the only thing was like Facebook, like nothing else was popping, like showing how old I am, right? It was just Facebook. I had to put stickers on my laptop saying no Facebook, no Facebook. So as soon as I open my laptop, it's right reminding me no Facebook, because it can be addictive. Then I had to step it back. Then one thing I did to be strict on social media was that I only went on between the hours of 9, 12, 3, 6, 9, 12. So I forced myself to really go on at them hours, and other than that, I wouldn't be refused to go on. So sometimes when you're forcing yourself to use that period, it's like, right, then I can't go on the other periods. So
Coyote, I'm going to steal the question for a second. How should we encourage young boys and young men to acknowledge self-care and maybe start implementing it in their life?
Okay. I think specifically young boys and young men, not females at all?
It could be to anyone, but as males, we may have problems with confiding in each other or discussing self-care as an issue, full stop. It might just be like, yo bro, get over it. So what advice would you give to a young boy, a young adult? What advice would you give to your 16-year-old self, in fact?
I think the advice I give to my 16-year-old self, or any young man or even young woman in that case, I don't think it's going to be much different to what I say to older people, to be honest. I think that no matter what age you are, you can all suffer from feeling a lack of self-care. So, I mean, I guess with the younger demographic, they feel it more in terms of the social media aspect of things. So it's going back to all those little tangible tips I said to you about things you can do to eliminate that fear of FOMO or whatever it's on social media. So I think the main thing is for them to have an outlook of something that have balance, essentially. So yes, they're focusing on school or whatever it is, but what can they do? What they can switch their mind off completely. Like for me lately, I've been getting into Power. You know what I mean? I'm like 3 seasons behind, but I'm way behind. Don't tell me about Kanan though, but you know what I mean? I'm way behind, but I like to watch Power now. So what things can they do to switch off from what they're focusing on, something that they can do additionally to whatever they're working on?
And how do you stop yourself from saying, oh, instead of doing my essay, I'm going to watch Netflix all night, or I'm going to have a bath and have a face mask and not be productive? Like, how do you stop yourself from, you know, stopping it being just self-care and getting lazy or taking it for granted kind of thing?
Anyone want to take it, or do you want me to lead? Or? So, I guess with your struggle in a sense of, yes, you've got to have self-care, but when are you going too much? I'm beginning to feel that now. So what I mean by that is I had the opposite problem. I used to be so focused on business, so focused on becoming an entrepreneur, I didn't do anything outside of it. However, now, like I said to you, I've been watching Power. So what's stopping me from banging out a whole season in one night? Or when do I press stop and watch it tomorrow? So I think it's to have that discipline within yourself, to realize that, yeah, I mean, I've got to look after myself, but where am I going too far? Where am I going too much? Because at the end of the day, the face mask, yeah, you look pretty, but is that the main thing that's going to help to get to where you want to be? So I think it's to realize that what is your ultimate goal? What made you want to do the self-care in the first place? And it just going back to discipline, to realize that, right, yes, I can look after myself, self-care, but really this is the most important thing over here.
So like, guys, I'd like to introduce Coyote. He will tell you a bit more about himself. He's a motivational speaker and the Apprentice contestant. He's going to let us know some gems of wisdom.
So what I want to do for the next few minutes is that I just want to share with you a little bit of my journey with GoThinkBig, because as Zara and some of the team mentioned, I actually went through the process. So before The Apprentice, you know, I did have a life before The Apprentice. Like some people think that I'm just Coyote from The Apprentice. Like what was I then before? Was I like non-existent? You know, so I did have a life before The Apprentice. I want to share with you a little bit about that. So it all started for me back in 2015 times. So I was in my first year of business. So I ran an events business. I live in Cheshire, near Manchester, in a place called Crewe. By show of hands, anyone heard of Crewe? Yeah. Are you being for real? You guys heard of Crewe? No, y'all are liars, innit?
No, it's not right.
You know Crewe? Okay, cool, we're good. We're on the map, people. We're on the map. So I was running events. I was in my first year of business doing events in Crewe. Now, before doing that, I was the vice president and governor of my university. Now, for some reason, for me making that transition between doing events, from being vice president and going into events, I received a lot of criticism and a lot of hate for doing that. Now, a lot of this was unjustified. So what happened is that I'm from South London originally. Cheese. Anyone from Catford? Anyone from Blueborough? Catford? Blueborough. Back. Anyway. So the way I decided to express myself, the way I was feeling, getting all of this negativity, getting all of this hate, is that I decided to write some bars. Just write some bars. Like I can't rap to a beat, but yo, I can do spoken word. Like I can throw some bars a cappella. So I did a piece called, no matter what you do, not everybody's going to like you. I'll say that again. That no matter what you do, not everybody's going to like you. Now, for me recording that and putting it on social media, it received not a lot of views, maybe a couple of thousand, but at the time that was big for me. I was like, raw, what, first video, a couple of thousand views? I was like, I need to try and do this some more. How can I do more of this? So the person's camera who I used to record my spoken word piece, his name was a guy called Mark, who did GoThinkBig. So I said, Mark, like every week I'll be like, Mark, can I borrow your camera? Can I borrow your camera? I want to drop another video. Yeah, cool. Mark, can I borrow your camera? Can I drop another video? Cool. I want to do like every Wednesday periodically. So every Wednesday. And over time, I'm like, Mark, can I borrow a camera? Like, just did not pick up my calls. I'm knocking on man's door like, yo, Mark, can I get your camera? You know, he left the door open, so I took it anyway. So I said, Mark, like, you know, he said to me, Coyote, like, if you want the camera so much, let me tell you how I got the camera. So I was like, yeah? He goes, listen, all you got to do is apply for something called GoThinkBig. At the time, not too sure how much it is now. By the time, they gave you £300 to go towards a project of your choice. And I thought, yeah, this is sick. I'm going to apply for it. So just before I made the application, I did a video for him about university because I had a lot of success through university. You know, I got a first class honours degree, I got published, I became vice president, etc. So I did a video for Mark for his project about university life before I applied to do my own. So that summer in 2015, I went over to the States. I spent the summer in the States and I applied over there. I got the grant, of course. Then when I came back, I said, right, let's try to start this. And my desire to do this was that what I wanted to do initially for my GoThinkBig project was to do a podcast interviewing successful people, young people between the age of 16 to 25 up and down the UK. Because it's in that period when they argue that most people can struggle. Hence why I guess most of us here were all within that age group, 16 to 25. That's why we're here learning about self-care. So I said, right, I want to do a podcast specifically aimed at successful people in this age demographic. Cool, great, that was my desire. The idea came from a different business I was in. I was listening to a guy called Darren Hardy of Success Magazine. He interviewed successful older people in America. So I said, right, I'm going to bring this over to the UK. So I got back from the States, landed in the UK. I was like, right, got the £300, I'm good to go. But one problem. How am I actually going to do this? Fortunately, when I was in America, I met a videographer and who happened to be living near me, near Manchester. So I said to him, look, I've got this £300 budget, you're a sick videographer, let's collab and do this little podcast to inspire young people up and down the UK. Great, got him on board. Next problem, okay, where are we gonna do this podcast? Because for me, I wanted to be very consistent. I wanted to be in the same location week in, week out. Again, I had connections with being vice president in Manchester, so I was like, right, let me go back to my previous university to try and get a bit more funding to occupy their studio space. Fantastic, got that as well. So by the time it was September 2015, October 2015, we're looking good. I got my videographer, I got my sick studio space, like it was sick. No sick, it was sick. I was like, we're good to go, we're good to go. But then that's when the problems start kicking in. Like, how many of you started something, you think it's going well, and then it falls to pan? By show of hands, did that ever happen to anyone before? No, everything's literally on the plate. There should be nothing wrong. However, there was. Because with this £300 budget, unfortunately, wouldn't stretch as far as we wanted it to go. The videographer started to not pick up my calls. I'd be like, yo, where are we at? Are we going to meet today? Not hearing from him. To interview people, like I said to you, I wanted to be in a consistent location in Manchester. Why is someone from London want to come to Manchester for an interview and not get paid for it? So I had all of these different things that I didn't foresee at the time. But they were just my external struggles. Because then internally, I started to question myself. You know, am I good enough? Can I attract the right people? Do I have what it takes to make this a successful podcast? And that's why I found out I hit my wall. Because I was like, what can I do? Anyone hitting a wall before, it's like you just feel hopeless. Like, what can I possibly do? Well, that's when I had my epiphany to get to the GoThinkBig project. I was like, right, instead of me interviewing successful young people in between the ages of 16 to 25 and other aspects of their life, I've already had success at university. Now, I don't like to call myself an expert, because the ex is someone who used to go out with you, and a spurt is a gush of water coming from a pipe. And none of you are my exes as far as I'm concerned, and I'm not a gush of water coming from a pipe. But I cannot be seen as an expert at university. Now I went from failing college, got a published first class honours degree, I became the vice president and governor of my university, and on a national scale I was elected as a director of the NUS, Anyone know the NUS? You know, it's like a massive, like, I think the turnover at the time was like 7 million or 12 million at the time. So I was like, right, so instead of me going out interviewing people, why don't I kind of just interview myself? And then that's when that was born. Ray, do you mind holding up the white case for me, please? No, the white case, so the mixtape, the white one, yeah. The mixtape, yeah, that's why I know I created the university mixtape. What, no round of applause? So with my money from the GoThinkBig project, I decided to, because over time people would ask me, like, how did I do this at university? How did I do that? So I kind of just interviewed myself and put it all on that audio. Now, if you open the case, I'm not going to lie, it's a Destiny's Child CD. It's not that actual thing. Yeah. That's because it's not actually CDs on your, it's on digital outlets, so your Spotify's, your SoundClouds. So if you want to find out about my product, that's all online. So it's still on there now, so my YouTube, etc. But because it was a much easier project, because I just did it with myself, I thought, right, how else can I still impact people who want to hear my message? So that's when I created the spoken word CD as well. Again, it's all on those platforms as well, and I created a workbook also. So what then that showed me, what I learned from that is that even when you hit a wall the first time, what can you do to overcome it? What different strategies can you apply to still get a similar outcome, but ever so slightly different? So it's important to always think, how can you transform from where you are now to get towards where you actually want to go? Now, just to end, I promised Sarah I'll talk a little bit about self-care and how it actually applies to my life. And I feel that I'm in more of a position right now to talk about it than I was maybe 5 months ago or even 5 weeks ago. But it's like, have any of you heard the story of Gandhi? Y'all know Gandhi, right? But there's a mum, right? A mum had a son who's eating far too many sweets. You know, his teeth falling out, etc. She took him to Gandhi. She was like, yo, Gandhi, please can you speak to my son and tell him to stop eating sweets? You know, I need him to have a nice smile like Coyote. Like, she didn't say that, she didn't know me. But she said, Gandhi, please can you tell my son to stop eating sweets? Gandhi looked at the mum and looked down at the boy and said, come back to me in a week. So mum took the boy out, came back a week later. Like, yo, Gandhi, please tell my son to stop eating sweets. He's been eating non-stop, his canines are falling out, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Gandhi looked at the mum and looked down at the boy and said, son, stop eating sweets. So now the mum's angry, like, Gandhi, so it's been a week and that's all you told my son, stop eating sweets? Why could you have not told me that end of last week? And Gandhi said, because last week I too was still eating sweets. So it's only when you overcome something can you be in a privilege to talk about it. So that's why I feel now in a more confident to talk about self-care, because maybe 5 weeks ago I might not have been in my best state. Like The Apprentice, when it was aired, that stuff is hard. Like, we haven't got time, I can't go through all the ins and outs, but it's not easy. I mentioned it to Zara, because now, all my successes now are amplified. Great, fantastic, I can do something well, it get put in the paper. However, if I do something wrong, again, it's amplified. You know, I'll be rolling with my friends, wherever we are, and they always say to me, Kylie, be careful what you do, you don't want to catch a Daily Mail case. You know what I mean? Because if we go through my, you know, people who watch your stories, sometimes I can see them creeping, you know what I mean? I see them creeping, so everything I do is either amplified, whether it's successes, or whether it's failures. So what I had to do in terms of my self-care, I had to look back at myself during my hard times of 2018, because I think I had a hard year. I had to think to myself, right, Cody, where in your life did you feel the best? Or where in your life did you feel like self-care was at its optimum? And for me, looking back in my own life, that was during university. Now, I don't know, chicken or the egg. Was I doing so well at university because I had great self-care? Or is it because I didn't necessarily need self-care while I was doing well at university? I'm not too sure which way around to put it. But what I do know is that I probably felt my best in terms of mentally and self-care when I was at university. The last thing I want to leave you with is that just remember that don't try to reach a pinnacle of success at the expense of anyone else. Try to have that balance. It's not worth being a public success, but risking being a private failure. So that said, I think that's about what, 10-15 minutes, right? Are we good?
Jeez,
brilliant.
Man.
So thank you very much.
Just imagine. I'm jealous that you haven't finished Power because yeah, man, there's a lot to come.
I know, man.
Game of Thrones.
No, see, I don't watch any. Like, I don't watch TV. Do you know what I mean? I don't watch anything.
Fantastic year ahead of you. So go ahead, Game of Thrones it up.